Hi, mission revealed here. Today I'm going to explain the American science fiction film, In Time. Released in the year 2011. Let's get started. At a particular time on Earth, people are genetically engineered to live for 25 years. After that 25 years, 1 year left, can you imagine? Once the clock is 25, they all have a watch in their hands where they check their years left. In that city, time was known to be a currency, which means you buy and sell with time. The rich men have time stored in time capsules that they sell or buy as though that life wasn't miserable enough. Each region has a different time zone. In some regions, you purchase goods at a more expensive time. In this crazy timeline was Will, a 27-year-old man who lived in Dayton, the poorest region. He lived with his mother Rachel, and Rachel clocked 50 that day, and Will promised her that they would celebrate after work. They planned to meet at the bus station in Dayton after work. On the way to work, a little girl asked Will for a minute of his time so she could work, and Will gave her 5 minutes of his 24 hours left to live. He attempted to buy a cup of coffee, but the time price of the coffee had increased. He purchased it regardless. By the time he got to work, he realized his time salary had been reduced too. I guess it's miserable living with 24 hours left for Will. In front of his workplace, he saw a dead man who died because his time had elapsed. After work, he went to a bar to meet his friend Greta. When he entered the bar, he was asked to play poker, but he refused because he had just a few hours left on his time. He collected the 1 hour one of the game players was owing to him, then went to Greta. He saw Greta drinking and wondered who paid for the drink. Since Greta didn't have enough time or money to pay for a drink, Greta told him a man at the bar had about 10 decades and he wanted to pay for all the drinks in the bar. Will went to the men. He asked to leave that place because of the time snatchers would come and kill him. The drunk Henry refused to leave. Fortis, a 75-year-old time thief, approached Henry to steal his time. He told Henry he would fight him for the time. Before the fight, Henry asked to visit the toilet, and Will went there and helped him escape from Fortis. He asked Henry why he flashed his time everywhere. Knowing quite well that he would be killed having that much time on hand, and saw Will's time, and saw Will had just 18 hours left. He told Will he could also make use of this time, but Will refused the offer. Henry told him he was 105 and he had another 101 years on hand. He said, at a point in life you get tired of living, and he is at that point. He told Will that there is enough time for everyone and no one has to die, but some people have to die for some to live immorally. He told Henry that over at New Greenwich, the rich hoard time, and that is why everything in the poor town gets expensive for the rich to live long enough and the poor have to die. That night, Will asked Henry to sleep in a secret location. Henry woke up earlier than Will. He transferred all his time to Will before Will woke up and timed himself to die before Will got to him. When Will woke up, he searched for Henry, who sides by the bridge top before Will got to Henry. Henry's time had elapsed and he died and fell into the water. Will visited his friend Greta first and showed him his time and told him about the man that the bar gave him. Greta expressed that he would be killed in Dayton for having that much time. He said he was leaving Dayton. He asked Greta how many years they had been friends. Greta replied it was 10 years, and he gave his friend 10 years as a gift. He planned to go to New Greenwich with his mother Rachel. Immediately Will leave and Greta went to buy drinks with his time. His dear mother Rachel was at the bank. She paid her 2 days' time loan. After she paid, she attempted to take the bus. She thought the payment was 1 hour and she had 1 hour and 30 minutes left. Unfortunately, the driver told her the price had changed and the transport was now 2 hours. She persuaded the driver and told him Will would pay for the remaining 1 hour at Dayton, but the driver remained adamant and advised her to walk if she didn't have enough money. She had to run to Dayton before her time elapsed. Will waited for his mother at the bus station to no avail. Suddenly he saw his mother running. He ran towards her, but it was too late. Rachel's time had elapsed just a few seconds to save his mother, since he had more than enough, and Rachel died. Will mourned his mother and promised to take everyone to a New Greenwich for what they have. Raymond, a 75-year-old timekeeper, saw the corpse of Henry in the water. They informed him Henry had decades by his side. A few hours before he died, Raymond decided to search the vicinity for the person who had Henry's time. He checked the CCTV and saw Will. They searched all through Dayton for anyone that had that much time, but they got no one. Will traveled to New Greenwich. He paid for the border fees with his time, as much as an hour. When he arrived, he ran to a hotel. Sylvia, a young lady from the family of the time, saw him running and figured he was from a poor town, because only people with less time to run. Will entered the hotel, paid for a suite. The next day, he went out for breakfast, paid the breakfast fee with his time, and even tipped the waiter a week. Sylvia was on the opposite side and she watched. Will asked the waiter for the casino room and asked how he could gain entrance. He dressed well and visited the casino. He invested in the casino for a year to gain entrance. He played poker with Philippe. Philippe comes from time. He told Will they have a privilege, the poor thing was unfair. Philippe took the first with 50 years, Will countered bet. Later Philip took a bet with 2 decades, Will counter bet. He had just 20 seconds left on his time. He won the bet and took about 1,000 years. While they were playing the game, Sylvia came to meet her father Philip. After the game, Philip introduced Sylvia to him and she invited him to their party that night. Will went to buy a car with 59 years and drove the car to the party. He was welcomed to by Philip, who introduced his wife and mother-in-law to him. During the party, Sylvia asked for a dance. While they were dancing, she told him she knew he didn't come from time because she saw him run, and only people who come from ghetto run. When Philippe asked him for a game, but before the game Raymond dashed into the party. He arrested Will and asked Will where he got the time from. Will told Ray he didn't steal the time, but the time was given to him by Henry, who said he didn't need the time. Raymond has expected but didn't believe him. He took all his time away and left him with 2 hours and asking him to use that time to get to Dayton. Before Raymond left the room, Will asked him why he was fighting for a suicide case when there were many murder cases in the ghetto. Raymond told him that he sounded like his father and shouldn't die like his father. Will fought out of the room and took a gun from one of the guards, kidnapped Sylvia and drove back to the ghetto. Fortis attacked them and kept nails on the road ahead of them. They collapsed. Fortis and his men came and they saw Will was down with time, but Sylvia had a decade and they stole Sylvia's decade. When they woke up, Sylvia had just seconds left. She begged Will for some time and he gave her to find time. Later Will visited Greta's home. His wife informed him that Greta drank himself to death when he still had 9 years of his time. Raymond got to the accident location but he didn't see any dead bodies, so he assumed Will and Sylvia were still alive. They sold Sylvia's diamond for 2 years. Will took Sylvia to her father's time loan bank and asked her to call her father. He asked Raymond for 1,000 years and asked for years to be deposited to the bank for the poor people. Raymond advised him not to die the same way his father did. Philippe doesn't want to release the time, but his wife tried to convince him the time was for their daughter. Will took Sylvia home and asked her to change into his mother's clothing. The next morning, they checked out the bank and saw Felipe didn't deposit any time. Will tries to convince Sylvia that it may be the timekeeper that didn't let Philippe deposit the money. They planned that Sylvia would call her dad while he watched her. He gave her a gun to protect herself. Before Sylvia left, she kissed him and went to the phone booth. She called her father, who told her Raymond knew her location and they would find her. She turned back to see Raymond attempting to shoot. She called out for Will and shot Raymond. Will saw Raymond had seconds left, so he gave Raymond 5 hours so he could call for the other timekeepers. Sylvia asked why Will gave Raymond time and he told her timekeepers live day to day and it may take Raymond hours before the other timekeepers find him. Will and Sylvia were in the cop's car, so they decided to rob. They robbed for time and jewelry. Raymond visited Philip and told him that he had kept an arrest warrant out for Sylvia and if Philip helped Sylvia, and he had put an arrest warrant out for him. Philippe wanted to bribe Raymond but Raymond refused. Will taught Sylvia how to shoot a gun and Sylvia brought up the idea of robbing her father's bank. They drove a truck to the bank, broke into the warehouse, carried some of the time capsules, and asked everyone to take enough time for themselves. He took some time capsules for Greta's wife and gave the homeless on the street some time. Philip called Raymond and asked him to get back the time. Raymond commented that Will doesn't know he's killing the people he wants to help. A man was killed for not wanting to leave his time. Philippe watched the news to see his daughter had robbed his banks about 5 times in 1 week. He complained to his wife about giving Sylvia everything she ever wanted, but his wife said he instead choked Sylvia. Raymond got to know Will's hideout. He combed the hotel for him. Will and Sylvia ran out mid-sexual activities. They fought their way to the bus. The driver saw they were wanted, so they bribed the driver with more time. They entered the bus and ran from Raymond. Fortis saw the poster that offers to give it to anyone who finds Will about 10 years. Will and Sylvia ran into a hotel. They rented all the rooms in the hotel and the man saw them going inside. Fortis laid ambush for several men. He asked if anyone knew the location of Will, talked else he would kill everyone. After killing one man, the man who saw Will in the hotel confessed. Fortis went to the hotel and attacked Will. He asked Will to fight with him and whoever wins leave. After Will fought with all his time, he was left with 10 seconds. Fortis got distracted and Will started stealing his time too. When Fortis was down to about 10 seconds, Will shot the other thieves and took all Fortis' time, killing him, and they escaped. Raymond got to the hotel and saw Fortis and his men's bodies. Raymond ordered that Will must be found. Will and Sylvia saw many people in front of the time bank. They felt they couldn't break the system. Will asked that they gave up and he said that they couldn't fight the system unless they had about 1,000,000 years. They attacked Philip and stole 1,000,000 years from Philip's safe. They shared it with all the banks in Dayton and ran away. Chasing them, Raymond forgot to take his time salary. He caught up with him and Will asked if he wasn't from Dayton. He told Will he broke out of the system and it was his job to keep the system running. His time ran out and he died. Sylvia and Will's time was low. They thought they would die but they ran to the cop's car and took some time. It was shown in the news that everyone at Dayton had stopped working due to excess time, and they were all crossing the borders to New Greenwich. At the timekeeper's office, Raymond's assistant asked all the timekeepers to go home. Ending the movie, Will and Sylvia went to a big bank to continue robbing for more time to break the system that had been created by the rich. Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to our channel to get notified when we post the next recap.